Okay, good morning, everybody. And welcome to the webinar, E-Marketing Strategies for Farm and Food Businesses. Good morning, my name is Kelly Henwood, and I am the Regional Small Farms Coordinator for Washington State University Extension. This webinar is funded by the USDA Rural Business Development Grant Program. So before we begin, a couple of Zoom housekeeping tips for everybody. If you have any questions at all throughout the webinar, please feel free to utilize the Q&A function either at the bottom of your screen, or if you're on a smartphone, I believe you have to swipe or look on the side. And we'll do our best to address questions either throughout the webinar or at the very end. So after this webinar is over, we will send everybody not only a webinar recording of this event, but also a list of helpful links and resources, and we'll also provide everyone an evaluation to fill out at the very end. We'd love your feedback. So before I turn it over to our moderator, Mark Bowman, I wanted to introduce our guest speaker, Susan Shoemaker with the North Olympic Development Council. And first, I'm going to put up the topics that we'll be going over today while I read her bio. So Susan joined the North Olympic Development Council in 2020. She has a deep appreciation for small business owners and is a fourth-generation small business owner, so her independent spirit runs deep. Susan's skill includes guiding business owners in setting up social media business accounts, Google local listings, organizing website content for improved SEO, and creating professional business websites, including e-commerce. Susan has a passion for helping people and businesses find more success. So thank you so much for joining us today, Susan.
It's my pleasure.
All right, Mark, do you want to get us going?
All right, welcome everybody to our presentation today on websites and e-commerce and social media. Susan has a wealth of information to share with us today. But first, I want to start off by having Susan introduce herself a little bit, her background, the program that she works with at NODC, and just some of the projects that you've taken on, a variety of the topics that you've taken on and projects with your program at NODC.
Well, thank you. I work with a broad selection of businesses that are located in Clallam and Jefferson County. And so any business with a business license there is likely eligible client for me. So I work with different businesses in the agriculture business. I've got farm clients and ranch clients, and I also have people from the trades and retail locations, artists and service providers. And we engage with each client depending on where they are in their business. So we look at, what do you have for digital marketing? Do you have a website? Do you have a social media platform? What do you need, and how can we fill in the gap?
All right. And you've been pretty busy. You've had a lot of clients so far in this program since it started, what, last spring?
No, November. So
November, okay.
A full 12 months. And
right.
I've got 30 plus clients we've worked with.
Wow.
We've built a number of websites, either from scratch or just start over. We got some people who just, what they had for a website was begun so long ago, and they have kind of run aground. So we've been able to help people with technical, practical, getting their accounts and getting their websites established. And then really, my focus is, once you have it, how do you use it to be effective and reach people and build a community?
Right.
And actually have your website function as a productive business asset. So that's really my passion.
And you work with other website designers too. It's not just yourself, right?
Correct. I have 3 different website contractors. And I take the role of I design the website. So I do the sitemap and talk with the client about what should their website include for functionality and what kind of pages need to be there. And once I have a good design in place, and I've talked through, do they have a domain? Do they need to get one? What's their web hosting situation? I map out a basic contract and send it off to a website contractor. And then I really step into a support and an advocate role until that project is done. But
Okay.
In the meantime, I'm talking with people about what is their content, what are their images, and really be a support to the client until that website is up and
All
ready
right.
to go.
Good.
Yeah.
You keep them working on it and at
Yeah.
their pace, but keep them moving forward. All right.
And it's,
I can-
it's a challenge to not have the project stall out. And that can
Right.
happen to any business anywhere. So the role I play is to keep people marching to the same drummer. We get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it can be a daunting process putting
Very
all the
much
pieces
so.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of pieces to it. And speaking of pieces, let's get into the first question. So in my perspective, I always think of website and e-commerce and social media as three separate sort of functions that sort of got to play together and work together. But you had an interesting analogy one time that you shared with me. Tell me how you think about and your perspective on website, e-commerce, and social media.
So I really have, two analogies that tend to capture how these elements relate with each other. They can look like three separate elements, but really they are nested. And I like the wheel and spoke analogy, where in the center of the wheel is your website, and that includes all the functionality that you need your website to contain, including if you have an e-commerce store. That's part of the functionality of your website. And then your social media accounts are more like the spokes of the wheel, so that once you have your website intact, then you create posts on social media that point back to your website, where you can conduct business and close deals and make sales and get people to contact your business. So that one analogy is the wheel and spokes. So the hub and spokes of a wheel. Another analogy is like our house. You want your house to have all the functionality to live a comfortable and healthy life. And so I have a kitchen in my house. Imagine your kitchen is your e-commerce shop. Well, that doesn't sit out in the backyard or go down the street to do my kitchen. It's not a separate unit. It's part of the functionality of my house. And so in a website, you put into the website all the functionality that you need. If you need an e-commerce shop, that's part and parcel of the same domain name, the same website. Additionally, if you need a calendar for people to know what events are happening, if you want to do payment processing so you can collect payments like a service industry, a tradesman, or you just want people to be able to use their credit card or their debit card through your website. So payment processing could be a different functionality. You can have a blog. So you put into your website all the functionality that you need, just like you put into your home all the functionality that you need, but it is one unit that is the basis of all the information for how to engage with your business online.
So structuring your website, there's some basic fundamental ways you need to structure your website to make sure that it flows well with social media and also e-commerce. But again, building your website's kind of like building your house. It's got to fit for your type of business. Yeah. Continuing to use that analogy.
Right. Not every business needs all the parts. So you want to think about, how do you want to engage with people? Is it appropriate to be writing a regular blog? And that's an entirely unit on itself. So I could talk about that for an hour, but sometimes that's really a very important way to engage with people, building community, letting people know what's happening in your business, featuring specials and sales, featuring products or services. And so if you have a blog, then you write that content on a regular basis, and then that is what you share to your Facebook page or your Instagram account, or if you do Twitter, or if you post on LinkedIn. So you do the content once, and then you share that link to whatever platforms you have for social media. And then that link points people back to your website, where they're not distracted by all the other stuff going on their social media. And you can offer the calls to action, the contact us or buy this, and you can close the deal on your website.
Okay. So we're on social media, so let's continue there. Thinking about social media. So social media can be a daunting part because there's so many avenues and places for social media. There's also being consistent. I find even with us, with our farming operation, we tend to do more social media posts in the springtime when all the little baby goats are born, because that's the cutest time. But we sure forget about the other seasons, right? So talk to us about, the various places in social media that provide value, and also being consistent, or how to set up a plan to be consistent.
Well, that's the key. If you just keep in mind that all marketing throughout all of history has been a competition for eyeballs. You're competing for attention. And today it is the most accessible to small business owners that we've ever had in the history of the world, with social media. And it's really common for people to groan, and we love it and we hate it. There's a sense of it can be a chore, it can be a task, and it can get in the way of what you feel like is the flow of working your business. But there's two approaches. There's working in your business and working on your business. Marketing is working on your business. And I have found it to be the most effective to look at the calendar year, 12 months of the year, and consider what sorts of products or services do you want to make available to people? What do you want to sell when do you want to get people's attention? And so I just worked up a basic spreadsheet where you decide how often is it reasonable for you to be making posts. So do you want to do it weekly? Do you want to do it daily? Do you want to do it twice a month? Do you want to have a heavy season, like you have your time when all the cute little kids are coming into the barn? Or so just you consider the workflow. What do you want to put together as a predictable flow of the tasks? And then you consider what are the topics that are appropriate for which seasons. You mark out which holidays matter for your business and which ones don't. Where do you want to take time off? And then you consider what are the messages that are appropriate. Is your business one where holiday seasons is a really good time for selling lots? Well, then you want to make sure that you're posting on social media more heavily during that time. So you work out the whole calendar in general. And I have found that when you make the rules for yourself, when you can break your own rules, you can take a break. But the cool thing about this is you do a lot of the planning upfront, and then you work the plan. For each post, really doesn't matter which platform you're posting, you need a picture. So you think about what kind of pictures are going to make the best bump for that message. You think about what is your key message. You're trying to sell something. So are you featuring products? Are you, is it a day in the life on the farm? Is it, promoting a holiday? And if you decide what is the main message, what's the image, and then you write a cute little thing, or you say something that will engage people. And you always want to have some way in your post for people to contact you and act on that immediately. So that's the call to action. Should you have your phone number in there, or a link to your website, or a link to a product? And if you work out this spreadsheet and you've considered the calendar year, and you have assembled a library of pictures, whether you're taking your own with your cell phone, which these days that's, that's 80% of what we see on social media. So that's just fine, as long as you've been thoughtful about what's the composition of the image, what's the feature. So you do as much of that planning ahead of time, And then you can follow your plan. And you don't have to wake up on a Tuesday and think, I gotta get something on social media. What'll I talk about today? Here's a picture of my cat on a barn post. It's better to have a plan. And then that can really focus on what is your marketing goal. If you're trying to sell meat, you want to make sure you're thinking about engaging people in what your product is in a way that they respond to it warmly and they feel like they're invited in. And if you consider that the ultimate goal is to build a community, give people a sense of involvement and inclusivity of what you're doing. They have a warm feeling towards you. They find that they love to support your business. And you build those connections with people, those relationships. You have repeat buyers. Those are the best kind, because you don't have to sell so hard in order to convince them that you're the go-to place for whatever.
Okay. So really, the prepping steps for just posting on social media, there is really, to be good at it, there's some forethought, and that's building your yearly plan,
Yes.
building your calendar, and also what I'm also hearing is building up a nice catalog of pictures.
Yes. Yeah. Images are more and more valuable. We've always heard the phrase, "A picture's worth 1,000 words," and we rattle that off, but I think that it's more prevalent today. People are engaged with their senses. And so whenever you're writing for marketing, to keep in mind the 5 senses. But pictures are the same way. If you're selling produce, to show the lush green leaves and get a glint of sunlight off a drop of dew, to pay attention to engaging people's emotions, and our senses are connected to our emotions. So that's really important. And I use the word composition about images. Consider what is the focal point? What are you actually showing in the image? What else is in the background that may or may not be adding to that or distracting from that? And there are wonderful resources online for helping people learn how to just be a little more observant of how they're taking pictures. But the cool thing is that almost everybody's carrying a really well-designed smartphone of some kind that's got some kind of a camera.
Yeah.
So this is not a huge investment in order to have the tools to create what you need. Additionally, there are wonderful free stock photo resources online.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to make, I have a list of at least 3 that I have used, and I'm going to make those available to Kelly so she can add those to the resources list. And so there are times for stock photos. There are times for somebody else's commercially, professionally created romantic view of, the sun through the trees or something like that. So you don't have to create everything all the time yourself. You can take advantage of these really powerful resources.
And when I think about the various social media platforms, how many is good? What diversity do you need? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, others. I mean, when's enough is enough, or when's too much,
Yeah.
and how do you and yet have a diversified platform and yet not be over the top.
Right. Well, I think those are really important considerations. I guess what I would do is I would consider, am I reaching the goals? Am I selling what I need to sell? Am I getting my crops out in exchange for money? Because that was the business model of my business.
Right.
And if that's not happening, then I would consider whether or not I needed to pay more attention to reaching out to people. So these days, Facebook has always been the big one. I think their statistics are, I haven't, checked them today, but there's something like 1 billion people a day use Facebook across the globe. Well, that may or may not reach the audience or the customers of your business. So you want to consider, where are the people in my business that I want to sell to? Instagram is growing and has more engagement with a little more, I should say, dynamic engagement is what I would call that. TikTok is huge, but I don't know whether that's appropriate for every business. Video is definitely taking over still images. But one of the biggest growing platform, I should say the fastest growing platforms, is LinkedIn right now, because it has not been overdone, and people consider LinkedIn for, career and job. But the cool thing is, those are people who are engaged with employment, and they usually have money. And so they might be very happy to buy from your farm. They might be very happy to get a social media post about your CSA. And, it's kind of it's a new opportunity. But Twitter is not formatted or designed for sales. And I shouldn't say that to, you can make a good showing there, but Twitter is really more of a focus for conversations and exchanging of text and written, even though, people post video and people post pictures. All this is to say, each platform has benefits and limitations, and you want to spend your time and effort on a platform where you have the most highest percentage of engagement with your own customer base. And, if you have skills in one and the other is just confusing because it's brand new, it may not be a good return of your time to learn something when you can be just as productive on one of the others.
Okay.
So I guess the bottom line is it depends.
Yeah, it depends. It really depends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move over to e-commerce for a bit. And how, when you think about your website, do you have to pre-think whether you're going to be an e-commerce site also? And does the relationship between the type of website you have and a potential e-commerce site, are they that integrated, or are they just plug and play, get one and it will automatically adapt to your website? I mean, how hard is it, or how easy is it to integrate an e-commerce platform in with your website?
It is very easy. So there are definitely website platforms that have presented themselves as an e-commerce platform. Shopify is the best example, where the whole point of that platform is you have an e-commerce shop. However, WordPress is the most commonly used platform for all business websites. Something like 80% of business websites, regardless of what industry they are in, are on a WordPress platform. And there's a free plugin called WooCommerce that puts the e-commerce shop on a WordPress website with all of the, all the best practices of shopping cart and product listings and, related products, suggested products, coupon codes. So that is accessible to any business website that's on a WordPress platform. Additionally, there's Squarespace, which is a turnkey platform where you sign up for a monthly account or subscription, and the amount that you pay per month depends on what functionality you use from their platform. There's Square Online now, which is a new thing I've been engaged with just in the last year. A couple of clients who have one of those, and you can build a relatively fewer functionalities, fewer design options, but really accessible. So integrating an e-commerce shop as just one more piece of functionality in your website is relatively straightforward. You can do it depending on whatever platform you choose. So that is not necessarily a decision point in what platform you're going to use. Really, the decision is where is your comfort level and whether or not you're going to do it yourself, which is accessible to everybody. But just like anything, once you know how, it's easy. If you don't know how, you got a learning curve. So it's which platform is really the best one that suits your business and the skill set you come to that particular tool with.
Okay. one thing you just started to talk about, and that is being diligent about product listings and listing everything, and also product fulfillment
Oh,
along
yeah.
that line. You know, once you have people, you know, buying your products online is having the capacity to fulfill those and get those out the door to those clients. So talk a little bit about product listings and being diligent in that process.
So building out all of your product listings, if you just imagine, if every product you're going to sell, and you're putting together a brick and mortar real little shop somewhere, what would it take in order to get all or everything ready for someone to come in and buy from you? Everything's got to be packaged, and everything's got to have a label, and everything's got to be well described, and everything's got to have the right price. And each product has to be handled. So when you're building out a website, e-commerce shop, you deal with your products one at a time. And the name that you put on your product listing is very important. So now we're going to start knocking on the door of search engine optimization. And the name of your product is something that search engines look at to decide how that product listing is responsive to somebody's search. So you want to be really practical in the name of your product. You don't want to use too much whimsy or too much being cute about it. You want to be kind of straightforward. And when you write very clearly for a person, the search engines can easily determine what is this and how much value is this page or this product listing to the person who's searching for something that just might be what you're selling. And so you want to make sure that your product listing is going to show up as best you can in that search results. So you name your product really carefully. And then to take full advantage of all of the fields of that product listing, you want to write a short description, you want to write a long description. And so in your short description, you want to be really practical so somebody in their scanning will understand that this is what I want to know more about. And in your long description, you want to cover all the details, size, texture. Now, if you're selling food, obviously you want to pay attention to, you don't want to do too much in the senses, because it may not, if it's a piece of raw meat, you probably don't want to talk about what it smells like. But you do want to talk about what that would taste like when it's well prepared. So consider your long descriptions a place to do the top sales job. If I were to come to your location and say, what is this you're selling? And how does it fit into my life? You want to convince me that what you're selling is more valuable to me than the money in my pocket. So, to really maximize that. If you're selling apparel or handmade goods or personal products, you want to talk about all of the details that makes me just fall in love with it. I've got to have that pair of socks because they're soft and they're fuzzy and they're gorgeous and they're made from wool that came from your own alpaca that got sheared, and it just make me fall in love with it. So if you take each product one at a time, and if you've done the math about what's the proper retail price for that, and that's a different discussion, happy to have it, but get the right price, the right retail price, so you have the option for a discount if that's appropriate at some point. You want to fill out that product description so that when I land on that page, I see the feature image for the product, which needs to be usually just on a white background. So I can really see I'm just buying that. I'm not buying all the other things around it. So if you're selling food, it is nice to have auxiliary pictures that shows perhaps it prepared or with accompanying items, but the feature image should not convince me I'm buying a cutting board with that steak. So, a white background for the feature image, and then auxiliary images to show how does that fit into my life and make me want it.
And so in the long description, things like how to prepare it, how to clean it, and when we're talking about food, how to clean, how to prepare it, maybe some suggestions on different recipes or
That's a really nice idea. Also, make sure that I understand size, quantity.
Yeah.
Does it come frozen? Is it fresh? What are the considerations I need to have as I'm buying that? Are you going to mail it to me, or do I have to come and pick it up? Or is it something I'm going to be able to collect as part of a CSA? Or is it something that's going to be available in the farmer's market? Make sure I understand the whole process. If I click the buy button and add that to my cart and I put in my money, make sure that I know what to expect. If it's being shipped to me, tracking numbers are, they're kind of standard now. So the whole fulfillment thing really matters. But more and more people are buying online, but people also are very much engaged with wanting to buy local. I want fresh. I want from my neighbors' farms and gardens and ranches. I want fresh, but we have to understand that we are competing with two sides that are the mass, and I don't need to, kind of preach into the choir here. There's all the chain grocery stores. And I can run down there in my car and drop some cash and everything's nicely packaged. Well, that can be hard to compete against, but if I'm buying fresher and more healthy, raised meat, I'd rather have locally raised, organic. I mean, all those wonderful things. Today there has been enough of a focus on the quality and the health of local farms and food producers that I really think that this industry has an advantage over anything that's factory farmed, anything that's shipped in from other continents. So that is an opportunity to raise those issues in your product listings and in your social media posts.
I've really seen a real maturation in the e-commerce sites.
Yes.
In several forms. One is the platforms themselves have gotten easier to use. I've seen more farmers take on e-commerce platforms, either on themselves or with other neighboring farms. I've seen the use of e-commerce platforms have gotten easier and easier, so the consumer finds it easier to use, and which is great. They're becoming more user friendly, and also I think with issues like COVID and understanding a local food and wanting to buy local and buying retail like that, it's all become easier and easier than it has in the past. And so so e-commerce platforms really shouldn't be scary at this point for a farmer to potentially take on if they want to do retail.
Well, and it's just like any other aspect of your business. I said it before, once you know how, it's easy. But you don't know how, you don't have to know everything about all aspects of your business. We have areas in which we have more competence and more facility, and it's just more straightforward. And so you have a plethora of options. You can learn and do it yourself. And YouTube is our friend these days. There's hardly any skill that's not already got great videos to show step by step. So that's out there. If you decide that in the running of your business, you just don't have the buffer to take on a learning curve, well, you can hire it done. And there's great website developers and various people that you can hire. And it's very important to check references when you're talking to any kind of service provider. I mean, it's just like hiring your business attorney or your CPA or any of the plumber who comes to your house or anybody. You want to know that if you're going to pay their fee, you're going to come out with what you are hoping to. So communication is very important. And if you decide to hire a web designer, it is definitely a coordinated effort. It's a collaborative experience, and your ability to engage in the project will have a significant impact on how quickly and how easily it gets done and whether or not you come out with what you're happy with. So knowing the service provider really matters. So there's lots of options, and there are some platforms where it is easier and less of a learning curve to just get engaged, but you get what you pay for. So if it costs less, you're not going to be buying as much. service and options and design than if you pay more. And the range of what websites cost and the range of what social media ongoing service posting costs kind of varies. And I could drop numbers here, but that might change because there's such a range out there. But you want to be sure that you're going to get what you pay for. So checking references is just vital.
Okay. So we're doing really great on time. We've got 25 minutes left and 2 topics. Kelly, is there any questions? I can't see them from where I'm at, but is there any questions that we need to be answered on any of the topics so far that you've seen that you want to bring up? Nothing yet? Okay. That means Susan is doing an awesome job in covering everything so far, and there's no questions. Wow, you've covered everybody's. Okay, way to go.
There you go.
So we're going to move on to the next one, and it's search engine optimization, SEO. Talk to us about the clients. Who are the clients? Who's looking? Why is search engine optimization, and who's looking at it? Not at search engine optimization, but who's looking at your website and your social media platforms and all of that, and why is optimizing your search engine so important to that process?
Well, let me just dial that in a little bit for you. The search engines are not your website. They are the algorithms that are assessing what's out there. So each page and each post, including product listings, or blog posts or portfolio posts on a website, every page is potentially the product that will be delivered to somebody who's searching for something. So search engine optimization means that you build out a page or a post with as much information as you can, because there's a competition. So if you imagine that somebody's looking for, culinary lavender, it's a great example of a current client that both of us have. So they built out a product listing for their culinary lavender to, they did a great job so that product listing had so much information. And the key is valuable information on the page and volume of information on the page. So every page is in competition on a topic for every other website page in every other website across the globe. So it's a big competition for whose page is going to show up in what's called the search engine results page. So let's say I type in, I'm looking for culinary lavender. So imagine I've got 50 people in my living room over there, and each of those represents a website page, and each one of them has a different amount of valuable information and a different volume of valuable information. So the search engines lines everybody up with whomever's got the most goes first, and that then creates the results page. So I search for culinary lavender, I say go, and then here I get all these results of my search. And now I decide based on that top line that's in larger type, that's either blue or something, and then the little paragraph underneath. And I look through each one, and I look at the domain that is listed, or the link that's listed for each one of those. And I decide which one of those I want to look at. So on every page and on every post or product listing, there is the field where you can write what's in that line that's going to show up in the top of the search engine results. And you can write that little paragraph. And you want to pay attention to those on every website page and every product listing and every blog post, because that's what the first filter of me, the searcher, I'm going to gaze over those and decide which one do I want to look at, which sounds like it's the closest to what I'm actually interested in. And the challenge is that we are designing website pages and posts and product listings for these two disparate audiences. And so you have the people who are the buyers or the potential customers, but you also have the algorithms, the bots that are going to crawl your page. The bots and the algorithm can read all the text. They can't visually assess your images. So when you're creating your pages, there's a field for every image that's called the alt text or the alternative text. And this is where you can describe in words, what does that picture comprise of? So that's a way to add to the SEO or the search engine optimization. So you're optimizing your page so that search engines will say there is more valuable volume of information on this page. It should go ahead in the order of what's being offered. And essentially, that's a really high level description of ranking. There's no perfect way to ensure that you're going to get ahead of anybody else, except to add more valuable and volume of information on your page. And what you don't want to do is write a bunch of just filler stuff. So it really needs to return value to the viewer. But if you just keep in mind that website pages and websites are the product being sold by the search engines. And, we all kind of stick with Google because they're the one that's used almost all the time. There's also Safari, a big one, but the same website page is being assessed by all of the different search engines. And I always like to say, if you write really well for your potential customer or client, the search engines will love it.
Okay. So it's quality and quantity are both really necessary.
Very much so.
Okay.
Some people say,
and I was kind of thinking about when you were talking earlier that two disparate audiences and you could write well for one and maybe not the other. But if you really write well, quality and quantity for the customer,
yes,
it more often than not, the bots are going to approve of that and
yes,
and for the most part like it more so than not.
Correct. I think that's the best way to win. So what you want to do is shortcut, because you think, oh, people are just going to scan, people are going to get weary, people don't want to read that much. Well, keep in mind, they are not the only audience. And so also the writing of content, let's say the about page for your business, that's one of the strong options for really great SEO, really great return, so that you can get the attention of the bots when somebody has searched for something that resonates with the content of your website. So to pay attention to logical nesting of information and to consider an outline form. So the name of your page, you want to keep it really simple and really straightforward. You don't want to get too cute. It should be should be the menu item for that of your business. And the reason I say should is because the search engines are looking for what's the logical organization of this website. So they say, here's your domain name of your business. It's really best to have the name of your business and your domain name to actually say what you do. I find it's more common than I'm comfortable with, that people's domain name just doesn't include a description of what they do. And that means that the search engines start with the top level of SEO with, I don't know what they do. So acronyms are not great. Anyway, so you have a great domain name that describes your business or is your business name. And then your about page, you want to pay attention to the heading tag hierarchy and use them appropriately. So H tags or heading tags can impact the design, and like the font size and the color and what kind of font on the page, but they are more a key for search engines than they are a design choice. And so hopefully if you're working with a good theme, your page will look great if you properly use H tags in the proper order. So the name of your page is in H1, nothing else on that page should be in H1, because the H1 in the logical nesting is the one step down from your domain name, and it's telling the search engines what's the page about. And then subtitles, very valuable. Those should be your H2s. So like on your about page, you say, welcome to Raspberry Farm. And that's an H2. And then you have a nice 3-5 sentences about the basics of your farm. And then you say the history of Raspberry Farm. And then you say what we sell on Raspberry Farm. These are all subtitles. And if the nice thing about that is that you're making these logical groupings of what you're writing. It leads your own creativity in composing what you want to say about your Raspberry Farm. And at the very end, to end with a nice summary that's an invitation to come and do business with, come and buy, where you can find us, how we'd like to connect with you.
Okay.
So using those H tags on a page in the appropriate nesting of the levels really matters.
Okay, great.
That down into the minutia of some SEO.
Let's finish with this. Where are we headed with websites, social media, e-commerce? Let's go back to that house analogy. If I'm building a house now versus building a house 5-10 years ago using the lifespan of and the speed of with internet versus houses themselves, how would you build your house, your internet, your website house, and and the social media and the e-commerce platforms now? What would you be thinking about looking out into the future for the next 5-10 years?
Well, if I got paid for prognostication, I would be very well paid. But I think that we can set expectation based upon what has been historically happening. So the trajectory, I think, for what that's worth, is e-commerce is going mainstream for small businesses. You don't have to be just an internet seller to do e-commerce. Your local next door neighbors are very happy to make their purchase decisions from the privacy of their homes, from what you're selling. So I think e-commerce is growing. And I would just say, if you have not yet thought through the process of engaging with e-commerce to sell what you have, don't be discouraged. It's just a number of steps to add that to how you make what you sell available to the people who want to buy. The other really exciting thing is that social media platforms are more and more accessible for posting product listings. So you have the product listing on your website, you share it to social media. Instagram's got great functionality for showing that this is a product for sale. And so I'm sitting, in the morning with my cup of tea or coffee, and I'm scrolling through social media for entertainment and see what's happening in the world. And here comes somebody who's got a beautiful, face lotion that they're making at a local farm near me. And I think I would love to have that. And boink, I bought it. And the email arrives through the website, through the product listing website. It arrives to the business owner. They open their email and they've sold 5 because they put their product on Instagram. And so that day they put them in the packaging that they've designed, whether it's a bubble wrap mailer or it's a box that then is going to go into a little cardboard printed box, or it's a Ziploc something, or whatever their fulfillment process that they've designed for their own business. And off it goes. And I'm happy. I get the beautiful product and they sold, and we've supported our own local community, which we all know keeping dollars local makes a big difference for, local dollars makes all of us live better. So I think I've answered your question.
Yeah. I think if now the problem is hopefully shipping and delivery can keep up with the pace of e-commerce growth, right?
Yeah, but the good news is we have lots of we have options. I wouldn't say lots, but we have options there.
Right.
There's the USPS and UPS and FedEx, and you can go that route, and you can set up accounts, and you can have an estimation of how much you're going to put out and maybe get a better rate. So you can set up an account with those delivery services. But we also have local farmers markets where if it's a local congregated place, you can say, I deliver to, and make that an option. Give people a break on the shipping because they're going to come and collect. And that, you have to manage all of these and see whether it's
Right.
successful. There's always going to be some one or two that they didn't come to get them, but those are great options. And if it's
Yeah.
really small and local enough, you potentially might say, well, I run around town and I'm going to deliver some of my crop to the local restaurants where I have accounts, and I will swing by some local place. You can come and meet me in the parking lot of a grocery store or that. And the reason I say that is because I personally have a couple of suppliers and local farms where I have an arrangement with them and I get things locally, but I bought them using my phone.
Yeah.
And I love
Yeah.
that. I get the convenience of technology today. It's just as convenient as buying from Amazon, which I don't think that you can get better there than you can get locally. And so I get local purchasing and the convenience of technology today.
Great. Hey, Kelly, any questions that come up here as we wrap things up?
I have a question, Susan. You brought up a thought for me that I've witnessed or observed in the farm and local food world. So social media has just become an incredible tool for farmers, and not only to share their story, but also just to raise awareness of their business. But I'm also seeing some new and beginning farms decide not to have a website for whatever reason, if it's just creating one is difficult or they're successful on social media. And I've been thinking about your analogy about the home. Can you speak a little bit about that? Would you advise for or against not having a website for a new and beginning farm? I know a lot of people want to just go to a business's website to learn a little bit more about them versus just going to their incredibly successful Facebook page. So can you speak a little bit about that?
Yes. And the answer is essentially in your question. Your business website, I think that is the opportunity you have to show everything about your business. And on social media, you only get just a little bit of the barest minimum about your business. And if you're only showing up on social media, you are standing in a crowd of people all clamoring about their businesses. Whereas if you can direct people to your website through a social media post, that goes back to the wheel with the hub and spokes metaphor. If you can direct people back to your website, this is where you shut out all of the other competing businesses for attention. And remember, I started this with all marketing is a competition for attention. You're competing for eyeballs. And it's very easy for me to say, oh, that's a cute picture, scroll on by. And if I don't go to your website, I can just discount what you're trying to sell. A business website gives you so much more ability to invite people into your community, to build a sense of connection with your business so that they're really engaged in wanting to support your business and become repeat buyers. And because websites are accessible, so much more accessible today, you don't have to have somebody who just writes code to build a website. There are multiple easy user interfaces on different platforms. And I think that a business that tries to conduct all of their marketing via a social media platform is missing out on a very significant opportunity to communicate better and more with their customer base. I just think, sometimes it's a learning curve. And it is of value to take the approach of crawl, walk, run. Do something now, but have a plan to do more and better as you move through the season or through the year, and get to the place where you have built up skills. And the really cool thing about a business website is once it's there, you can edit and add to it and augment it and add functionality. You can add, they're called plugins that can do things a little bit better, a little more sophisticated. You can swap out the pictures. You can go back to a page and edit what you wrote. But once it's there, you can always make it a little bit better. And it's like it's like a full-time employee, 24/7, 365 days a year, that never gets sick, but is always out in front of your business to engage with people who have the slightest bit of interest to see what you're doing. You want that employee to be the best informed, the most polite, the best presentation you possibly can get. And the cool thing about a website is once you make it a little bit better, it's better until you make it better again.
One of our participants added a really great comment in the chat that I just wanted to share. Sammy, thank you for including this. They said that their social media may be more popular, but it's not yours. It could go away tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
No say in it. But if you have a website, you control so much more. And
Yes.
so not having a website is putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yes. So what Sammy said, she's right.
Great. Well, there's no other questions. I want to encourage any of the participants to, we have a few more minutes. If you want to utilize either the chat or the Q&A function to ask any questions, now is the great time.
Yeah, that, and Kelly, do you want to wrap up on what you will be seeing, what they'll be seeing in the future, and when things will come around to them?
Absolutely. So after this webinar, we will upload the recording to our Small Farms YouTube channel, and it should be available within 24 hours. So everyone who registered for this webinar will receive an automatic email that will provide them a link to go see the recording, but also the link to the resource page that has a bunch of different resources and links that Susan and Mark and I have gathered for you all. And it'll also have a link to the evaluation to this webinar, which I'm also going to put in the chat here. And we'd love everyone, please fill it out, give us some feedback. This webinar is the last one we've been hosting throughout the year. It's grant funded. We'd love to hear how these topics have helped you, and what other topics you'd like to see in the future. So please fill out the webinar. And if you have any questions, I also wanted to add Susan's contact information to the resource list. If you're farmers in Clallam or Jefferson County, the North Olympic Development Council, maybe Susan, you can talk a little bit more. I know you started off the webinar with sharing some of the resources you both provide, but maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
I'm really excited about this. You know, I've got a few years behind me of building websites as a small business owner, but today, because I'm employed by the North Olympic Development Council, my role is that I get to provide a business consulting in a private, confidential environment, so it's Zoom meetings. And we talk about all things about your digital marketing, your digital assets. And it is free of charge to any business that has a business license in Clallam or Jefferson County. So happy to talk with any of the businesses who just want to have a chat. They want to have a review of what do they have for a website. If you're challenged with without one, or what you have is completely inadequate, just contact me and we'll set up a meeting and see how we can help.
Great, thanks, Susan. We'll include your contact information in
Thank you.
follow-up resources. Mark, do you want to close us out?
That was wonderful. That was a great session, very informative, and done in a way that makes it so much easier to understand. I love Susan's analogies. They're so well done. So yeah, that concludes our number of topics, and they can be found on the WSU website. This and the other sessions that have been done over this past 6 or 9 months. So insurances and labor and grant funding and different things. So go browse those and find out more about e-commerce and insurance and lease agreements and those sort of things. So definitely take a look at the WSU website, and Kelly will, like I said, will be providing the links to those resources. So Susan, thank you so much. Great job. I hope you get a number of new clients out of this, and we can really help promote small business development and sales.
Well, that's the goal. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks,
Kelly.
everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan.
Have a great
My
day.
pleasure.